Happy Monday, Kentucky. Not quite as sunny a Monday as the last few days we've had. I don't know if you were a weekend warrior like me and spent your weekend out in the garden. My back's a little cranky about it, but it's okay, I'm a terrible gardener. I'm trying it again for the first time every time, but we've got this great time at home. I don't have to run around to conferences and meetings, and I'm just really enjoying the time to be outside with my dog and the sunshine, and I hope you all are having the same kind of weekends. And thank you for coming in and checking in with us on our Monday broadcast. We've been, since we've been healthy at home, and we are finding ways to connect with you all Monday mornings to inspire you in your cooking for the week to come. So excited to get into the spring season. All of those vibrant, fresh, crunchy, crisp, spicy things coming to us from the farmers markets, or maybe you're a first-time CSA member. And we have heard that basically every CSA, community-supported agriculture share in Kentucky, is sold out, which is, y'all, that is amazing. Our farmers are excited, maybe a little nervous. It's a lot to handle. They're still doing farmers markets. We're going to meet some great farmers today who are doing markets and curbside. So there are so many ways, however you want to access fresh food, to access fresh Kentucky food. So one farmer who's a favorite of Chef Tanya's and now a favorite of mine, we're going to bring in his Happy Jack's Farm, and we'll bring them in for a second. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going? We've got Leanne and Sydney here from Happy Jack's Farm. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing good. We've been out this morning. We've been working on some of our stuff this morning. We're checking inventory this morning from plants that we have. So we've been out in the rain this morning.
Oh, we've only had a tiny sprinkle here in Lexington. Where is your farm located? First things first, where's Happy Jack's?
We are on 421 heading towards Lexington. We're right on the Franklin County, Woodford County line in out 421.
I don't want to be biased, but that might be the most beautiful part of the state where you all are.
Really, it's a really nice location. The farm is, there's a 200-acre farm here. That's what we live on. And literally we are secluded in one sense, but then again, we can get to Frankfort in 10 minutes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what all do you all raise, grow, hustle around on your farm out there?
There's probably everything. We start from early well, first of all, we start at the end of February with all of our plants. We do all of our own plants in the greenhouse. And then we transplant all those out. So we start from the very beginning. Right now we're starting to pick kale, but we do all cole crops, which are, the carrots and cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower. Going over to, we've got our onions planted. We do potatoes. We even try to do early things. We did have one. We started some beans in the greenhouse, and we're going to transplant beans. But of course,
you know how much I love beans? What kind of beans are we talking about here?
We're talking about green beans and romas, just regular string greens and romas. But Gorgeous. They are not very pretty right now. The frost last week did get those.
Did they? Oh, I hate to hear that.
We're starting all over. And we also do sweet corn and going right into all the squash, zucchini,
everything. So any little produce that someone's heart desires, they can find at Happy Jack's. I noticed on your T-shirts we have livestock and a pumpkin. I think, aren't you all known for your pumpkin work?
Yes, we also raise, for the fall, we also have we're open for about a 10-week period for agritourism where you come and do the U-pick. We do pumpkins. We also wholesale pumpkins and all the winter squashes and the tour groups and the hay rides to the patch and corn maze and all that all the way through the end of October.
That's a full year. So right now we're at the start of the season. I am going to show folks your Facebook and the website, but do you want to tell us where, once we've seen the amazing recipes that Tanya's got ready for us and they've just heard all the great things you raise, where can they find your product and bring it home?
So we have adapted a store to kind of work with the times. We never had an online store before, so now you can go to our website, happyjackspumpkins.com, and there is a link that says our store, and that it routes you to a different website, but it will take you straight to our store, and it's pretty seamless from there on. So you'll just click that button, yep. And there we are, and we update it regularly. I mean, as soon as anything comes on, we're coming right inside and we're adding it to the store.
Oh my goodness. So these are all starts, right?
Yeah, all plants for as of right now. So as we get more produce in, we're going to add those just as fast as we can. It's been just about every single day we've been doing some computer work, keeping it all up to date.
That's a lot of work. Oh, look at this. We've got honey. I know we're going to touch on honey today. Popcorn. You guys, what don't you do? I see farm fresh eggs. That means we've got some chickens. This is fantastic. So people can order on the online store, and then where do they pick up that product once they order it?
So on our online store, once you get to the very end, you'll have 3 pickup locations that will be at our farm stand in Frankfort. And you can pick those up from 3 to 6 o'clock on Monday through Saturday, every day, Monday through Saturday. We have a Bardstown Road location, which they are still operating as an open air grocery store. So you can walk into that farmer's market and purchase produce, or you can do a pre-order. So you could go ahead and order whatever you want, and we'll have it ready for you as soon as you walk up. And also Douglas Loop Farmers Market, and those are both in Louisville, right off Bardstown Road. They are operating pickup only, so you can't walk into that farmer's market and just pick up. You have to pre-order.
Okay, so Douglas Loop in Louisville, you have to pre-order. Bardstown, you can pre-order or walk up. And Frankfort, what was that one?
Frankfort is our farm stand location. That's okay. You come to our farm. You'll drive up to our shed, which we have right in front. We have signs. You can't miss it. And that's really a drive-through too. So we'll take your order, we'll process it, and we'll have it ready for you. You don't have to you don't have to get out of your car. We'll put it right in there for you.
Fantastic. Well, I don't want to rush us along, but I know Tanya's got some really exciting stuff in the oven. I'll bring her in briefly so you all can say hi, and then we will pause. And then if you'd like to come back at the end just to wrap up, we'll see you again at the end of the broadcast. Sound good?
Yes, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, here comes Tanya. Hi, Tanya.
Hello. Hi, guys.
I just wanted to give you a chance to say hello.
Yes, I stopped by the farm and on Sunday, yesterday, and beat the storm pretty well, and even caught Richard bringing eggs in from the hens. We just washed them, and he was putting them into the walk-in, and stood and got to talk to Sydney and Leanne for a little while. We had a little social distance visit yesterday, which was really nice. I was telling people, I'm sorry, I went on Friday, not yesterday. Who knows what day it is anymore? So Friday, and then yesterday I was telling people about my visit and how good it was. Just nice to kind of talk a little bit. And her cats weren't good at social distancing, so I got lots of love from the fur babies, and got to see all the chickens and the goats. If you ever go, some of the best nights and days of my life I've spent out at Happy Jack's farm. It's a great place to hang out. It's a great place to have an event. We can have events again. And one of the most memorable nights of my life happened at Happy Jack's farm.
We don't want to do that with.
Weta Michael, I used to thank all of the farmers who provided, and Leanne, and all of the family at Happy Jack's, of course, provide a lot of produce to Weta and pumpkins. And during the last one that we hosted out at Happy Jack's, the heavens opened. There was a deluge in the middle of cooking everything, blew over the wined tent and broke it, and we had to pull grills off hot and run them into the stand.
Oh my goodness.
And then wait out this torrential storm, and then we just stoked the grills back up and cooked food and had the meal anyway. Soaking wet. So it was a memorable night. There have been many fond memories out at Happy Jack's farm.
I'd love to hear it.
So today I wanted to just feature some of the products that they have now, but those beans that you were talking about, those Romas are incomparable. You stew those down kind of Italian style, maybe when the tomatoes start coming in, they're fantastic. I tell you what else they have, and I don't know if you've planted it or when you plant it, but your cauliflower, Leanne.
It's in the ground, and we're just waiting for it to grow. So I'll let you know so we can do roasted cauliflower again.
It makes my heart happy that it's the sweetest cauliflower you will ever taste. So you want to head on over to the stand or to one of the markets when that is being harvested. But today we have some of the pantry products and some kale. And I don't have a lot to show you that we're going to do except for the popcorn at the end. But I'm pretty much ready to kind of pull out a bunch of different dishes.
All right, well, let's get at it. We will see you, Leanne and Sydney, right at the end, and I want to see this delicious food Tanya's making. All right? Okay, we'll see you soon.
Okay. So when you drive into Happy Jack's farm, you will see some bee boxes. There's a little winding road that you follow. There are a lot of signs pointing your way on Hickman Mill Road. It's really just past the Franklin County line. When you head out 421 on the right, you'll see a big corn cob sign to let you know that you're at Hickman Mill Road. But they do have honey, and you'll get to see the bee boxes when you're there. And so I wanted to make a honey cake. And I've already done that because you bake the cake first. This is just a really simple butter cake with some spices and a little buttermilk to help all of the leaveners work and to work those out. It has a little bit of almonds in here. So we've got cinnamon, clove. I made everybody jealous in the building this morning because I'm back in the Food Connection kitchen baking. But what you have to do at the end is, it's rather, if you've ever made your own baklava, it's kind of the same as that. So you bake this off, let it cool for just a moment. And I'm going to put this on a sheet pan. And over here in this pan, I have some of that wonderful honey with an equal amount of water. I don't know if you know that you can do a simple syrup with honey and water, just like you would with water and sugar. So it's a great way to add sweetness to, say, your iced tea without it being granular. And it's also a great way to make syrups for stirring up any kind of punches or cocktails, or making a syrup for baking, and then if you want to flavor it. Honey works just as well as sugar. Honey is also a great addition if you sweeten your coffee. I can't recommend it more. And I don't even sweeten my coffee, but honey in coffee is a transformative experience. So if you're looking for ways to incorporate it, that might be a couple. This honey cake might be another one. I'm going to do this step first because what we're going to do is we're going to pour this honey syrup. It's got a little bit of lemon and lemon zest in it along with the honey. I'm going to drizzle that over the top of that cake and let it soak in. Now, I did bake this in a springform pan. Like I said, it's a very simple little butter cake recipe. You just bake it in the springform pan for about 30 minutes on 350. It was very quick to stir together, and it's very quick to bake off. I use Weisenberger flour in that. JD's Country Milk, and of course Leanne's fresh eggs that I stopped by to get on Friday. So we're gonna let that sit and let that honey syrup soak in. And while we do that, I have a couple of other things to show you. The first thing that I want to pull out, and we're gonna let this rest just for a moment. We have bags of wonderful kale from Leanne that I picked up, and also the eggs as well. And I have over here, I had a little phyllo sitting in my freezer. So again, this is one of those ways you can use up stuff that you have around your home while you're trying to be healthy at home. Even as we're starting to emerge, you're still trying to keep those practices in place. And this is a Cheesy Kale Phyllo Pie. So I just sauteed up some onions and some garlic. The garlic came from Elmwood Stock Farm, and the kale came from Happy Jack's. And I added a little bit of Kenny's Norwood cheese. And as we were talking, Leanne said that Kenny's Farmhouse Cheeses actually sets up a booth near her booth at the Louisville Farmers Market. So if you're there seeing Leanne, then you may want to stop by and check out Kenny's cheeses as well. We use the Norwood in this case. And then I just sauteed all of the veggies together, added some herbs. I have some fresh parsley from Maggie's Salad Days Farm, and I have some marjoram and some dill. So this is a little bit like you might want to think of spanakopita, only you're not folding it up in the little triangles or cutting it into the little diamonds. You're just sauteing it together, adding the cheese, adding the egg, and making a mixture out of that. And then you just take your layers of phyllo and put it in this little pie dish like this. Now the way you do that is just to take each layer and brush it with a little oil, or we clarify butter a lot. I bet Leanne has clarified quite a bit of butter in her time. We didn't even talk about the time she spent working in the kitchen at Holly Hill Inn, as well as delivering vegetables for it. But we've made tons of clarified butter in our time, which means you just sort of simmer it until all of the milk solids can be skimmed out and all of the water evaporates, so you have the pure fat. So anything that's pure fat that's not going to make the phyllo salty, then that would be good for the layers. And there are about 5 or 6 layers on the bottom. Now I made mine really rustic and just folded the edges over and buttered those. If you wanted a completely encased pie, then you could do 4 or 5 layers again and kind of tuck it in around. But this one, I wanted all of that lovely grain of the kale to come through. So I'm going to let that rest for just a moment. Anytime you pull any kind of egg pie, like a quiche or a frittata or anything like that out of the oven, you want to give it just a minute to rest. It will cut and slice much cleaner because those proteins have had a moment to just stop moving around so much because of the heat, and they'll sort of start to kind of pull back together. So you'll get a nice clean cut if you can let it rest just for a few minutes. Now the last dish that I cooked, Leanne, and I used it all up so I can't show you, but Leanne also has a multicolor stone ground cornmeal. And because of that, and because of the eggs, and something that we used to make at Holly Hill together quite often was a spoonbread. And if you are familiar with spoonbread, you'll know that it's kind of halfway between a really heavy custard, a bread custard or a bread pudding, a savory one, and a souffle. So that's what most people know of when they think of spoonbread. It's made to be made in family style, and it's been popularized particularly by Boone Tavern. And the recipe that I use today is actually Richard T. Huggins, and he was the manager and ran Boone Tavern for many years in the mid-20th century and made a couple of cookbooks from all the recipes that he developed and gathered while he was there at Boone Tavern. So he's well known for that in this region. And I used his recipe, which is a little bit different from what I'm used to using. I'm used to using James Beard recipe, where you separate the eggs and you whip the whites and get them stiff. So it's a little bit more of a souffle. Now the Richard T. Huggins recipe, you don't separate the whites, you just beat the eggs and incorporate them in. And it gives you a little bit more of a custardy texture. So I'm going to pull that out as well. And also, you'll notice, because it is that multicolored corn, it's not quite as light as you might see before. Typically, you use white cornmeal with a spoonbread. This one is just you make a mush with some milk and the cornmeal, and you cook that for a little bit just to get it going, almost like you would a polenta. It's a ratio of 3 to 1, and then you incorporate your eggs and you put it in some sort of baking dish or baking pan that's been buttered really well, and then you bake it off, and it makes this sort of custard. Now, if you separate your egg whites and whip them, it'll be a little bit fluffier, especially once you pull it out. It'll look like a souffle. It'll raise above the edge of the pan, but then it will fall back down in it. So it's kind of like a fallen souffle, and it's meant to be served that way. You can serve it as it is. as a side, or you can make a compound butter and put that on top. That makes it even much richer. Sometimes we would do a shrimp or a lobster butter to put on top of our spoon bread, and that makes it a very special occasion starchy dish and very traditional to Kentucky. So now that we've talked about all of these, I will serve a little slice of each up just so you can see. And I'll do that while I get my pan for the popcorn ready. I've got my salt. I've got a little melted butter over here. And I do have the bag on this so I can show you. So I still have the honey and I still have it's a really light popcorn. It comes in a bag like this. You can just order it on the online store and pick it up at the farm stand along with your other goodies. Plants maybe, where Lily's gardening, she may want to pick up some of those different plants that they have. So here is our little spice cake with the honey spice cake with the, you can smell the lemon and the spices coming off of that. I'm just going to take a little slice here. And that syrup has already started to penetrate. Got a couple of local fresh strawberries here. Really, you wouldn't need much else with this. Comes out in a perfect little wedge, and you can see how that syrup is really nice in making the cake moist. So we've got that there. And I'll switch that out. And we're going to take that kale phyllo pie, the cheesy kale phyllo pie, and I believe we're posting all of these recipes as we speak. Oh yes, and that's a perfect texture. And you can cut this into wedges. You can serve it warm or at room temperature, much like a quiche. And what's nice is that all that butter that you've used has made sure that this is not going to stick in this pie pan. You could also do these in little, if you have the little mini cast iron skillets, it's fun to serve individual ones. Oh, that looks amazing. We've got that there. I'm going to turn my pan on and get it hot. Oh, let's talk about this. And then I've got some nasturtiums from Steve's plants, and that's just for a little bit of garnish today. Nasturtiums are one of the edible plants. They've got a little bit of a peppery kind of heat to them, but they're also very beautiful, and they're great as garnish, or they're great to add to a salad or other vegetable dishes just to give it a little color and a little of that floral beauty. And we'll do that. And then set that off to the side. As I said, normally this would be served family style, but we'll just spoon a little bit of the spoon bread up here. And it is coming, you butter the pan, so it is coming out really well. And like I said, if you did that compound butter, then you would just slice that and put that on top. I just have a little bit more of Maggie's parsley out here, and then we'll get going on the popcorn. So this is the most interactive portion. Going to get the pan pretty hot, and I've got my lid. And I don't know about y'all, but my grandma always made popcorn on the stovetop. We had a popper in my house, but when you went to stay the night at grandma's, she always had a little pan that had a wire attached to this so that you could spin it and it would stir your corn kernels. But of course, she always had to give it a good shake too. She had a little rhythm, and she would turn and then shake. We just have the shake method today, but I want to show you how easy and simple. So if you do come upon some locally grown popcorn, and a lot of farmers around here do, UK South Farm often does, Leanne does, so don't be afraid of it if you don't have an air popper. This is an easy method to do it. So you want to get your pan pretty hot. trying to combine two words at once. You want to put just a little drizzle of oil, enough to coat the bottom and coat the popcorn seeds or the popcorn kernels. Now I'm using about 3/4 of a cup here, and you'll see how much that makes. It'll make a whole lot more than you think. And you know your oil is good and hot because it starts to shimmer. It looks like a mirage on a hot day. And I'm gonna put one kernel in first. And that's our little test kernel. So he gets to go, he's like the penguin that they shove in to make sure there's not any predator in the water. You put him in first. And when that kernel pops, that's how you know that enough heat has built up so there's enough steam in each kernel to pop the popcorn. So we're just gonna stay here and listen. So Lily, if you wanna come back on, if you wanna bring Leanne back on, it'll get loud here in a moment, but we can talk for a second while we're waiting on this to heat.
Sure thing. So, Leanne, do you? What do you have thought?
So, how long have you done the popcorn, Leanne?
We've done that for about 4 years now. We actually grow the kernels, and then we go out there and hand pick it, and then we have a little sheller. I mean, it's everything about it's done by hand.
I wondered about that. Now, because some people will just give you the cobs by yourself. Which, that's kind of fun to kind of sit there and just pluck it off. But I would imagine if you have an acre or more of popcorn, then you need a sheller.
And we've been surprised too with the popcorn. Since we put that on the online store, the sale of that has really gone up.
Well, it's such a great well, that's great that it's selling, so people aren't afraid of it. I did wonder about that, like how people would approach if it's not some things. I think people get into the frame of mind that I buy that in the grocery store. Like when I make marshmallows, they go, "Oh, I didn't know you could even make marshmallows. I thought they just came from the grocery store." I think people think it's popcorn kind of like that.
They do. They think that the only way you can do it is in the microwave.
Right, you just stick the bag in the microwave, and that's the only way to get it done.
Do you have favorite popcorn toppings?
I like it basically just plain with salt. That's my favorite.
It is the popcorn that we have is so flavorful. It doesn't need a whole lot, and that's how we eat it too. Just really plain with a little bit of salt.
That's what I've got today. I've just got a little bit of melted butter, a little bit of salt. I like to do kind of a garlic smoked paprika mixture sometimes if I'm feeling like a little something different.
I am a controversial person. I like that nutritional yeast. I'm an old school co-op grocery person. I love some nutritional yeast. My partner Greg does not. So we are a 2 popcorn bowl household. He has the butter and salt, and I have the salt and nutritional yeast. That's how you make a happy house. You know, it's okay.
And I'm shaking it. You continually have to move it around on the heat so that it doesn't get burned. And then you just listen. It'll continue to pop. If you've ever done Jiffy Pop on top of the stove, maybe you'll have a little bit of a sense of the timing, but you can still hear it popping fairly frequently. And now this is kind of like how you do it in the microwave. So you want to listen for it to continually pop, but once you start hearing that slow down, I've even turned this down just a little bit, and we're starting to slow down. Woo. Yep, got a last few of them going right here, but I'm going to get my bowl ready. There we go. Oh, you always have one or two last one, but you can see from like about 3/4 of a cup, it made a whole like 2-quart pot full of popcorn. So if people are kind of looking for ways to gauge how much to make, so there's that, and a little bit of this, and then you can either add, if you like flavorings, You can either add flavorings to your butter. Oh,
Cool.
it got me. Add flavorings to your butter or add them right now as you're tossing, and just a wee bit of salt. And it's a beautiful, really light, it's a really light kernel. So I assumed it would be really light popcorn. And you're right, that's absolutely delicious. I bet movie theaters wish they could sell this kind of popcorn.
It is a holeless popcorn too. So it doesn't have that hole in the middle.
Right. So this is 4 dishes you can make right now with what's at Happy Jack's. You should go out and visit them more than anything. That's the thing I want people to say. The one message I want to get across is that you hear Happy Jack's Pumpkin Farm, but don't wait till the fall to go see them. You do want to visit them in the fall because corn mazes and hay rides out to get your pumpkin. And do you still do the kickoff with all the food and things like that?
A little bit. It just depends on how the season's going. But, up till that point, like Tanya knows, we do supply a lot of different restaurants. I mean, Holly Hill gets a lot from us. We do a lot of the restaurants in Louisville. I mean, we sell to Harvest, Mayan Cafe, each one of us, each one of the boys, like we are truly a family operation because each one of my sons, each one of those Louisville markets are their markets.
Oh,
So
wow.
David does Bardstown Road, Adam and Sydney do Douglas Loop. And then I also do a market in Frankfurt. So on Saturday morning, we're off at 3 different locations.
Big family affair. Okay, so we've heard the markets. We know about the farm stand. We've seen, you can just, if you're already on Facebook because you're watching us on the live stream. So Happy Jack's Pumpkin Farm is their page on Facebook. That'll show you the store right there. Or you can go to their website, which is, I'm at the store site. Here we go. happyjackspumpkins.com. We'll post those links, I'm sure. Jax, I can do it. Watch me. Hey. So, Leanne and Sydney, thank you so much for joining us today. The hardest part of these live casts is that we don't get to try the food after it's done, which is a major drawback. That's
And I would like to say, Tanya, from now on, Tanya, if you need help, I will come.
I think one thing that I should have thought about all of this is like starting a curbside delivery service. I just, whatever I've got, I just drive it around and drop it off. That would be a very short ordering window, but still.
Well, wonderful. Leanne, Sydney, thank you so much for joining us. Tanya, thank you for showing us those great dishes. Keep an eye out. Turn on notifications if you want to see when we are live on Facebook. Keep an eye out for future recipes and other videos and materials we're putting together. And otherwise, y'all stay safe at home. Leanne and Sydney, thank you. Tanya, thank you. And that's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.